It was a dusky evening in the sleepy town of Saddle Creek, nestled between vast plains and winding rivers. The sun was slipping behind the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and lavender. 15-year-old Ellie Parker was pedaling her battered red bicycle along the Riverside Trail, a shortcut she took almost every day to get home faster from school. Her backpack bounced against her shoulders, filled with worn notebooks and a lunchbox that still smelled faintly of peanut butter. Ellie was a tomboy through and through. Her jeans were always dusty, her hair usually tangled into two uneven braids, and her knees bore the scars of 100 adventures. She wasn't one for fancy things or idle chatter. She loved the wild spaces, the woods, the horses, the freedom of Saddle Creek. It was her kingdom. As she rounded the bend near Miller's Ridge, where the trail sloped close to the river's edge, a loud screech shattered the peaceful air. Tires skidded, a horn blasted, and then came the unmistakable sound of something massive smashing into water. Ellie froze, gripping her handlebars. A few seconds of eerie silence followed, then a bubbling splash. She dropped her bike and sprinted toward the sound, her boots thudding against the trail. The sight that met her eyes stole her breath. A black pickup truck had veered off the road above and crashed into the river, nose first. It was already half submerged, tilting toward the current as water poured into the cab. A man was inside. She could see him pounding weakly at the driver's window. He was trapped. Ellie didn't think, didn't hesitate. She kicked off her boots, tore off her jacket, and dove straight into the freezing water. The current was swift and sharp, dragging at her limbs, but she pushed through, gritting her teeth. She reached the truck, clinging to the side mirror, and ducked under to try the door. It wouldn't budge. The man's face was pale, eyes fluttering. Ellie swam back up, grabbed a large rock from the riverbed, and with both hands smashed it into the driver's window. Once, twice. On the third hit, the glass shattered. Water flooded in. She reached inside, her lungs screaming, and unbuckled the seatbelt holding him. With everything she had, she yanked him out through the broken window, scraping her arms on the glass. Kicking hard, she swam back to shore, dragging the heavy man through the water until they collapsed together on the muddy bank. He wasn't breathing. Ellie, shaking with cold, pushed on his chest the way she'd seen in first aid class. Again and again. "Come on," she gasped. "Come on." Suddenly, he coughed. Water splashed out of his mouth. He groaned. He opened his eyes. "You're a kid," he whispered hoarsely, blinking at her face. "You're welcome," Ellie answered, breathless and smiling, even as her teeth chattered. Then he passed out again. The ambulance arrived 10 minutes later, followed by the sheriff and half the fire department. Ellie gave her name and a short statement, still wrapped in a thermal blanket and sipping hot cocoa someone had handed her. They loaded the man into the ambulance. A nurse glanced at the chart and frowned. "He checked in as John Doe," she muttered. "No ID on him." Ellie watched as the ambulance drove off, red lights disappearing into the darkness. The sheriff put a hand on her shoulder. "You did good, kid. Real good." But something gnawed at Ellie as she walked home barefoot, her wet socks squishing. Why wouldn't he tell them who he was? The next day, there was no news about him. No one came to thank her. No calls. No hospital reports. When Ellie asked at the clinic, the nurse just shrugged. "He checked himself out early this morning. Left no forwarding info." It didn't sit right. For days, Ellie replayed that night in her head. She saw his face, the cowboy hat floating away, the bleeding hands banging the glass. There was something about him, something secret. Who crashes into a river and disappears? A week later, Ellie was back on her delivery run. Every Saturday she brought eggs and goat cheese from her family's farm to customers around town. That morning, one of her stops was the Weston Ranch, an old property on the edge of Saddle Creek. It had been abandoned for years, the barns sagging, the fences down. But now it looked alive. Trucks were parked in front. Workers hammered planks onto the barn walls. Fresh hay bales sat stacked in the field. Ellie squinted. Something was happening here. As she approached the gate with her basket, she saw him. Standing in front of the barn, clipboard in hand, was the cowboy. Taller than she remembered, wearing a clean black hat and button-down shirt. He looked better, stronger. She dropped the basket. "Hey!" she shouted, running toward him. He turned, eyes widening. Then a slow smile crept onto his face. "Well, I'll be," he said. "Little river angel." Ellie stopped just short of him, hands on her hips. You're alive. And you vanished. Everyone said you left. I did, he admitted. Didn't want the fuss. Wasn't ready to be found. She crossed her arms. And your name's not John Doe. No, he said with a chuckle. It's Cole. Cole Ashford. Her eyes widened. She took a step back. Wait, you mean, you're that Cole Ashford? He nodded. She gaped. Everyone in Saddle Creek had heard of him. Cole Ashford, the billionaire heir to Ashford Oil who left it all to start a tech company in California. He'd made headlines for years, until he vanished from the public eye. You disappeared, she said. I came back. This land was my grandfather's. I bought it quietly and wanted to fix it up in peace. Ellie looked around. So you're rich. And you're just fixing barns now. I needed something real, he said. Then you pulled me out of a river and reminded me what that feels like. After that, they saw each other often. Cole would visit the Parker farm, helping Ellie's dad fix fences, bringing feed from town. He even bought them a new tractor under the guise of a farm upgrade grant. Ellie knew better. But she didn't tell. He taught her how to rein horses, how to spot a snake in tall grass, how to change spark plugs. In return, she showed him the best fishing spot and how to tell a cow's mood by its tail. They sat by the river some evenings. He told her about his childhood summers on the ranch, chasing calves, sleeping in haylofts, riding till sundown. She told him about her older brother, James, who died in a rodeo accident when she was 9. Since then, it had just been her parents, and the land. I thought I was alone, she admitted one night. So did I, Cole replied. On her 16th birthday, Ellie awoke to strange noises outside. Her parents urged her to get dressed and come out. She stepped outside, and froze. A new barn stood at the back of the property, painted red, fresh and clean. The fences around the pasture were fixed. And in the middle of the corral stood a stunning chestnut mare, with a white blaze on her forehead and a ribbon tied to her halter. There was a letter nailed to the fence. Ellie read it, hands trembling. You saved my life. Now it's my turn to give back. This land, it's yours now. Every inch I bought around you is going back to the Parkers. The horse, she's yours. Name her whatever you want. I'll always be nearby, but I think you already know that. C.A. Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't wait. She ran toward the hills, heart pounding. She found him by the barn, just where she hoped he'd be. Why? She asked. Because you reminded me who I was. But peace was short-lived. A month later, a journalist caught sight of Cole at a local fundraiser. The secret was out. The headlines spread fast. Teen girl saves missing tech tycoon from drowning. Paparazzi showed up at the Parker farm. TV crews begged for interviews. Cole was furious. I should have kept a lower profile. Ellie stood her ground. She gave one short interview, then shut the door on the rest. He's my friend, she told the world. That's all you need to know. In time, the attention faded. Cole used the buzz to start something good. A youth ranch on the Weston property, for troubled teens and foster kids. He made Ellie the co-founder. She stayed in school, graduated early, and later went to vet school. When she returned, the ranch had grown, serving kids from across the state. One evening, as grown-up Ellie stood by the river with Cole, now grayer, wiser, always wearing that same black hat, he looked at her and said, you know, if I ever had a daughter, I'd want her to be just like you. Ellie smiled. And if I ever got a big brother back, I'd pick you. They watched the river flow, remembering the day it tried to take one of them, and gave them both something even more valuable in return. Sometimes, the smallest hands can change the biggest lives.